again, it just tells the story of the evil and the ugliness of people's hearts these days is everywhere.
This is Franky Rose's Think Tank. Here's your host, Franky Rose.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Think Tank. So we have some movement in the courtroom, so I thought we should probably get into this. Doesn't look like the jury's in, so it might be some housekeeping, but let's check it out.
Please be seated. This court is in session.
All right, so jurors, I want to remind you of the instructions that I gave you before we went on the view, and then I have a caution for you. So we took a view today, the purpose of which was to help you to better understand the evidence, which you'll hear during the course of the trial, and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. The view that you took is part of this case, and the observations that you made while on the view may be used and considered in your deliberations. Remember that I told you that what you were to do on that view is best summarized as simply stop and look. Your responsibility was to see the place, observe it carefully, and remember what you saw. You were cautioned that while on the view, you were not to take any notes or photographs, and that you were not to conduct any independent investigation while we were there or at any time during the trial. So independent investigation includes, but is not limited to, any measurements that you may have taken or attempted to take. So to the extent that any of you did that, you must totally disregard it, because you must find the facts from the evidence presented to you in this courtroom. Okay? So with that, Mr. Lally, do you have a witness for us?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth will call on Mr. Gregory Woodbury to the stand.
Oh, back in session by the looks of it. Here we go. We'll have to check it out, Tony. Thank you, thank you. How are you guys doing? Welcome back. See if we can get through this without wanting to jump through the screen.
Shall we swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now hearing to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God? I do. Thank you. Please take this.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Greg Woodbury, Woodbury.
And what do you do for work, sir?
Lieutenant paramedic on the Canton Fire Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire Department?
About 24 years now.
How long have you had the rank of lieutenant within the Canton Fire Department?
That's been 8 years now.
Now, prior to working with Canton Fire Department, what, if any, other work did you have within that same sort of field?
Prior to being on Canton Fire, I was an EMT paramedic in the North Shore area.
And if you could just, with regard to your working as a paramedic and a firefighter, specifically as far as being a paramedic, what, if any, sort of specialized training did you receive in regard to, or certifications did you receive in regard to being a paramedic?
So after I got my EMT, when I went to paramedic school, I went to Northeastern University. It was a 1-year full-time program.
And following you successfully completed that program, is that correct?
Yes.
And is there any sort of continuing educational component or recertification component in regard to your paramedic certification?
Yeah, every 2 years, paramedics have to recertify. We're required to get so many hours of continuing education to recertify every 2 years.
If I could turn your attention to the date of January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Were you working with the Canton Fire Department on that day?
Yes.
And what kind of shift were you working on that occasion, if you recall?
It was a 24-hour shift.
And 24-hour shift within the Canton Fire Department is what to what?
It's 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next day.
Whoa.
Now, turning your attention to the 29th, at what point do you sort of get up and start to begin your day at the fire station?
So a normal day, sorry, was that my beginning of the shift you're talking about, or the end of the shift?
Second day.
Okay, so the second part of the shift. Normally we get up at 6 for the officers, but I got up a little earlier then because we had the snowstorm coming in. So I had to make sure everything was shoveled. I think I got up about maybe 5, check the apron of the area in front of the station, and make sure the walkways were clear.
All of them
And
did
when you
that.
got up to check that, what if anything did you?
It had been snowing and there was blizzard type conditions coming in. So it was a decent level of snowfall there. Let's see, maybe 2-3 inches on the ground at that time.
And as far as
heavy.
with reference to that, what if anything did you do to?
That's heavy snowfall.
I think
right?
we can move quickly through this part of it. The cleaning the apron.
No, I
Okay.
wasn't getting to that.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as that particular date or that shift, how are you assigned within the firehouse?
I was lieutenant on engine 4.
And with respect to that, at some point shortly after 6 a.m., did you receive a dispatch to a call?
Yes, yeah, we're dispatched to a call for a person in the snow.
And did you respond to that call, sir?
Yes, I did.
And you were assigned to the engine, is that correct?
Correct.
Who, if anyone else, was assigned to the engine that day with you on that shift?
So we had Cade McLaughlin and Frank Walsh were my 2 engine crew.
And in addition to yourself and your engine, what if
Yep.
any other sort of vehicles or apparatuses?
Ambulance 1 also responded with us. So that was Tony Flamati, Matt Kelly, and Tim Nuttall had also hopped on the ambulance. He was coming in for the shift in the morning, came in early to beat the storm.
And do you recall where the call was in regard to what the address was?
I don't remember the address offhand, but it was not that far away in the district.
And when you arrived in the engine, when you first arrived on scene, as you were arriving on scene, what, if anything, did you sort of see as upon your arrival?
So the police were already there. We were approaching the scene. I could see several people off to the side in the yard doing something. So we went to investigate that.
Stay off on the side, was that to your left, your right, or something?
So the way I was approaching the street, it was on the left-hand side.
And when you indicate you see some group of people, is that correct?
Yeah, there was a few people around. I don't remember exactly how many or what they were doing.
And when you start to make your way over there, what, if any, when you arrive on scene?
Yep.
What is sort of the first thing?
So we went to evaluate the patient. So, I believe someone had started CPR prior to us getting there. So we went to continue that.
When you say someone had started CPR prior to you?
I don't remember the particular individual that was doing it as we arrived.
My only question, sir, so it's someone outside of your department, correct?
Yeah.
And do you know if it was one of the police officers or someone else?
I don't remember.
Get used to hearing that, guys.
Now, obviously, your
So
dispatch
I'm the
response to an
lieutenant is
unresponsive
now.
mail, correct?
Yes.
And at the time that you're arriving on scene, you say you see that sort of cluster of people. Were you able to see that unresponsive mail at that point?
Not in the vehicle, not until I exited the vehicle.
And at some point, much later or subsequently, did you,
Exactly.
come to learn the identity of the unresponsive male or the patient that you were involved
Afterwards, they told me yes. At the time, I did not know.
in? And what did you learn his name to be subsequently?
I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous and blanking right now.
Was it Mr. John O'Keefe?
Yes, correct.
And when you first came over to where Mr. O'Keefe was on the ground, is that correct?
Yes, he was.
What kind of position was his body in when you first observed?
He was lying supine on the ground, like on his back. He was parallel to the street, about 8 feet away from the snowbank.
And in reference to that, as far as the snow was concerned, what if any snow did you observe on or around where you were?
He was covered with snow and there was snow around the area.
And so from a treatment of Mr. O'Keefe as a patient,
Yep.
what is sort of the first thing that you did or
We started CPR, or CCR, sorry, immediately. Someone went to go get a board to get him onto that so we can get him onto the stretcher and move him to the ambulance. And then someone else was trying to get the backstory, trying to figure out the scenario that we're dealing with.
if I could just stop you for a moment. So
Yep.
you mentioned CCR, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the difference between CCR versus CPR?
CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So that is when you're helping someone breathe. CCR is when we first get to a scene, they changed the protocols a little while ago. So we don't have to give respirations right away. We can just do compressions. It's a little more effective to get the blood flowing quickly.
Thanks. So as far as your involvement in patient care, sort of what
Yep.
was that during that initial phase where Mr. O'Keefe was supine on the ground? What was your involvement in patient care at that point?
I was assisting with the CPR, making sure everyone else was doing their task. As lieutenant, I kind of got to manage the other people and make sure everyone's on target for what they're supposed to be doing.
And during that initial time that you're outside in the area where Mr. O'Keefe is on the ground, what, if any, observations did you make as far as injuries to Mr. O'Keefe at that time?
Outside on the ground, he was covered in snow. So we're really not doing any sort of secondary survey initially. The primary concern is the primary survey, which is airway, breathing, circulation. He was not breathing. He had no pulse. So our primary concern is to get that going.
So now there was snow on him. The last guy said there was none.
And at some point, are you able to get him from the ground to the back of the ambulance?
Yeah, we moved him onto a longboard, then moved him from the longboard onto the stretcher, and then brought the stretcher over the ambulance and loaded him in there.
You mentioned at some points upon your sort of initial arrival as a patient that different people were tasked with different things, correct?
Yes.
And someone was tasked with trying to get sort of what you termed the backstory. Why is that important?
So when you have someone unconscious, unresponsive, you want to know when they were last well, the last breathing, last seen, trying to figure out why someone is on the ground. There are different reasons of why they could be there, trying to figure that out. Normally people don't lay down in the snow. So trying to evaluate the reason the person was unconscious.
And so you're able to get him on, Mr. O'Keefe, onto a stretcher into the back of the ambulance, correct?
Yes,
Fair to say that the lighting in the back of the ambulance is better than it was outside.
correct.
And when you're in the back of the ambulance, are you able to then do or participate in that secondary survey? you were talking about?
Yeah, we started doing a secondary survey after we started getting good compressions going. Someone was working on the intubation, and then one of the procedures is to strip off the clothes and evaluate the person.
And if you recall, how were the clothes removed?
I don't recall exactly which method they used. Typically, we cut them off, but I'm not sure if they did that or they just pulled them off.
And what, if anything, do you recall as to Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and sort of what he was wearing when he was found?
I really wasn't paying attention to it. The primary concern is trying to revive him.
So to that secondary survey, as far as once you're in the back of the ambulance, what, if anything, did you observe as far as injuries on Mr. O'Keefe at that?
He had a hematoma or a bruising. The right eye was very prominent. There was some scratches on the right forearm. Was most of the external injuries we noted.
And now, in addition, so as far as people on scene, there were a number of different firefighters from your
Yes.
department. And you mentioned that the police were on scene when you arrived. Is that correct?
Correct.
So beyond the police and fire, what, if any, other individuals did you observe at some point when you were on scene?
There was some other civilians there. I really wasn't paying attention to them.
Now, with reference to that backstory that you were talking about, at any point in time, either outside of the ambulance or inside of the ambulance, who, if anyone, was tasked by you or anyone else to try to obtain that back?
I think Katie McLaughlin was the one that obtained the backstory.
And if you know, was there any other conversation that you were present for between any of your other firefighters and any of those civilians?
That was primarily when she relayed to us the information that she had obtained. We were trying to figure out the scenario of why he was found unconscious, unresponsive.
Let me ask you this way. So as far as arrival at the patient when he's on the ground,
Yep.
who gets there first? You and the other individuals in the engine, or the firefighters in the ambulance?
We both respond from the same station at the same time. The engine's in the front, the ambulance usually in the rear. So I believe we pulled over, the ambulance pulled over at the same time as us. I believe C5 went as well, which is the captain. He was also responding with us.
Now, as far as the person that firefighter McLaughlin spoke to, what, if anything, did you know about that person at that time?
At that time, I knew nothing. I knew there was someone that had been with him. She relayed the information of what she had heard to us.
And the information that firefighter McLaughlin, without reference to what it was, but the information that firefighter McLaughlin was able to obtain, did she communicate that to you and the other firefighters in the ambulance?
Yes. Yeah, she came in the ambulance, told us what she had heard.
As far as the information that firefighter McLaughlin provided, did that comport with what you were observing as far as injuries to Mr. O'Keefe?
Objection.
Sustained. You can lay a foundation if.
Now, as far as, again, the injuries that you observed to Mr. O'Keefe in the back of the ambulance were what?
It was the bruising of the right eye and the scratches on the forearm.
And what, if anything, did firefighter McLaughlin indicate to you had been told to her?
That someone said she had hit him, and he was last seen.
Objection. Move to strike.
Sustained. That will be stricken.
May we approach them?
Okay.
Here we go, guys. Oh, here we go. Here we go. It's too early for all this ish. Jesus, Lord Murphy. Look at that big woman back there. She's just glaring her down. She just wings it, Tony. She just does whatever she wants to do in that moment. Whatever suits Bev, I guess. I don't even like her name. Trust me. I apologize to any Bev that may be watching. Long story. One we'll never get into. Her court, I guess, Tony. She just does whatever she feels. So I'm wondering if that's the why you see they give her dirty looks. Look at this woman staring at her. Like, not friendly. And then this woman here in the white next to the dad there. You're making it up as you're going along. Come on, pan over to this other woman, great big lady that's looking like really ticked off. Eyes are boring into the back of her head. I don't think it's even right that they would be
Because we
doing
always try
that.
and check and make sure that your lunch is here before we take a break. I'm told that it is. So we will take a lunch break. We'll see everybody here ready to start right at 2 o'clock.
Rise for the jury.
This woman doesn't have a clue, guys. She doesn't have a clue. She brought them in for 20 minutes and then sent them for lunch.
Hey there, Karen Reed, trial watchers. You know what a lot of the trials we cover remind me?
I'll just take him right out of the situation for now. Lordy, lordy. Well, I'm gonna pause this. So what we'll do is we will go over here for a bit.
Darkness falls, it gets hard to see what my life has in store for me. Oh, it makes me wanna scream when I'm standing in the pouring rain. I feel like my hands are tied up in these rusty chains. I travel my mind for answers, you see. The answer tonight that will set me free. You know it makes me wanna scream when I'm standing in the pouring rain. I feel like my hands are tied up in these rusty chains. I think of a night when I see red. When the ghost man calls, you wish you were dead. Oh, it makes me wanna scream when I'm standing in the pouring rain. I feel like my hands are tied up in these rusty chains. Darkness falls, it gets hard to see what my life has in store for me. Though it makes me wanna scream when I'm standing in the pouring rain. I feel like my hands are tied up in these rusty chains. I travel my mind for answers, you see. The answer tonight that will set me free. You know it makes me wanna scream when I'm standing in the pouring rain. I feel like my hands are tied up in these rusty chains. I think of the night when I see red. When the ghost man calls, you wish you were dead. Oh, it makes me wanna scream when I'm standing in the pouring rain. I feel like my hands are tied up in these rusty chains.
I think it's media. It was media footage because they were allowed to go, just not contact. JJ, yeah, how is the plumbing? So they showed the back of her vehicle. Ripple crisps for lunch. Why do they need to look at the inside? It's interesting. So that must be where that black box is that they ripped out. Yeah, it's the actual car. They just showed a bunker. Right there.
Something to do, right? Yeah, exactly.
So look at how high that is.
Cool guy. Okay, yeah. I do wish I could sell it.
Well, it's definitely not what it looked like that day.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it.
You're right.
I think they had to stay that far away from the people. So why, that's just very unusual. Like why? You're okay, Jazzy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he's a dick, he's a kook, but he isn't so. Because it's like, you know, like my parents watch the live stream.
Wow.
And I'll tune in. I can't listen to the
Look at how close that house is to the road and they heard nothing.
It's like, comes to this. You're awesome. Yeah, right.
The vehicle doesn't make a lot of sense to me still. He couldn't have been kneeling, look at that where, or bent over, because look where it's broken. We still don't know where the shoe is. And yeah, that's the thing, Tony, no lower body injuries. It does not add up. You usually end up, I mean, anyone I know that's been hit by a vehicle in their lifetime, I mean, they've had broken hips and broken legs from the bumper, you know, the back end of the vehicle. Same thing with the front, actually. It's just, oh my Lord. Oh, there we go. They should be back in very quickly here. So yeah, that's what it was. Now let us have a little bit of a peek of what the jury's seen. So that's why they were so fast. I thought they might take them on the different routes. And I'm not sure if they got to go inside of the house. My number one fan. Oh, buckle up. The show's going to be hitting us up right away again. Lordy, lordy. Let's see if she can make it without peeving somebody off to the point that they like, what the hell, man? Yeah, she pretty much thinks she is part of the prosecution. She's behaving that way. Honey Badger Bev. Oh, bad beaver Bev. Mm-hmm. Auntie Bev should just declare her guilty without a trial at all. Exactly. You're exactly right, Tony. It's just like, are you kidding me already, this woman? And I mean, she'll be doing the same. She'll be directing it the way she wants. She is the director. She's not the impartial person that's supposed to be, you know, teaching everybody the law, as she said. She's explaining to everybody. She's giving them excuses that almost make it like the defense is responsible. That's why I got so upset this morning when she's like, and you know, that what we talked about this morning. And I'm like, but I heard you with my own ears say, don't worry about the numbers. Just don't worry about the numbers, Mr. Jackson. And he's like, okay, your court. And now she's all confused because there's numbers all over the place. It's true. It's absolutely true, Tony. It's freaking brutal to see this happening in, you know, we want our kids to be able to trust the judicial system, to trust cops, trust lawyers, you know, but they make it that you can't even really do that anymore. You know, there's always been bad and always been good, but it just, I mean, I'm probably mistaken, but it just seems to me like it's getting worse, not better. You know, it's just what the actual hell is going on in these courtrooms. Judge Gall, look at, she pretty much thinks she owns everything that happens in there. It's up to her and nobody else. Even after they went to the Superior Court with that one, she's still coming back and trying to get them to do, basically ignored what the Supreme Court had to say. Is basically what she did. And this one here, she doesn't seem to care how it sounds, what it looks like. I mean, she'll even, Jackson will be talking and she'll go, ah. And when she does actually say, okay, no, sustained, well, she'll go, I'll give him this one, I guess. Like, you're so obvious. People are people, good and bad, everything in between. Titles are nothing. Not numbering the evidence, this must be a first. Maybe Bev thought she could ban 90% of it, right? Yeah. It's getting worse because the people not held responsible for their actions is right. And Ruth says she is a conductor of the orchestrated trial. Well said. I just don't see where at this point, and I mean, we're only, 4 days in, and she is making herself look suspicious. It's not all the gossip and all the this and that chatter. It's her behavior that is making everybody basically say, what? She must be innocent because even the judge is not giving her a fair go. It's the way it looks. So, I mean, if this goes if Karen Reed is found guilty at this point, even if she's guilty, if she is found guilty, she will. I just think I think she gets her fingers going in too many little sections and has a little bit too much control. I think she would like to do her best to not have it appealed, because I do believe they're going to find a shit ton of errors going on. But yeah, I'm surprised it's being streamed too, Dandy. And she does seem to hate the jury, Christy. It's just unreal. So, yeah, even if she is guilty and found guilty, I think she might have a right for an appeal. I do. I mean, it's not like I know the law very well, but I am noticing that this is stuff that is extremely unacceptable in any other court I've seen. If I was on the jury, I'd be annoyed. I'd give Reed an innocent just in spite of Bev. Oh, right? And it's not just us non-legal folks that think it's a sham. Lawyers are online saying what a sham it is. That's the thing. You know, when we're in a world now that this stuff is, everybody has access to it, as they should. And they're catching on to some of the illegal things that are done in a courtroom. It does take years to go through appeals court. You're right, JJ. It's disgusting. So I'm not quite sure where they went, because it is now 2:00 there. Maybe she'll come back and go, oh, a short day of court again today. She doesn't seem to like full days. Definitely doesn't work Saturdays. Yeah, she's already been waiting 2 years. What's a few more? Yeah. I mean, if she is found guilty, I hope to hell she's guilty. If she's found innocent, I hope to hell she's innocent. But I don't think the judge should be in there swaying and only putting out the things that will follow the narrative she has set. They do. She does. She talks to the jury like they're toddlers. Obnoxious attitude. Yeah, like we're not stupid. There's probably people in that group that are a lot more educated than this little witch. I think it will end up getting dismissed if what the DEA guy says is true. Let's hope. Let's hope. I think this judge, I mean, we've seen them do some pretty sneaky things, haven't we? And I don't even know if this judge would grant that. You know, if someone was asking for a dismissal, I don't even know that she would grant that, because I'm pretty sure she doesn't want anyone looking at this ish show that she is participating in, I might add. She has too much control. She's power hungry. She likes to be, can you imagine being married to her? Like, oh God, or one of her kids or sisters, brothers, like unreal. Yeah, she acts like she's not on camera, Tony, you're right. And she just doesn't care. That's the part that gets me. She just does not care. I think she's got an agenda and she's not going to turn around from it. Yeah, no thanks. I value my sanity. Yep. The judge acts like this, like she's not on camera. So can you actually imagine what she would be like when there's not cameras? Can you imagine the ish? It blows me away what people think their rights are, or like it's just like we've got a world full of narcissists that just want to do exactly what they want to do. And we're running into trouble because these people that don't want to bend because they think they're so great are now out there with great big frickin' titles. So now our world's going to shit. I mean, if this is just an example, then yeah. How many trials don't we get to see like this? This is it. Well, a good one, a good example right now is Richard Allen. Look at how that's going. Yeah, I shudder to think too, Ruthie. It's just, what the hell? Yeah, that judge in Delphi has like, no cameras for this, no cameras for that. Definitely not for the trial. And I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure she's trying to hide. Hey, I'm pretty sure she's trying to hide absolutely everything that's been going on in that area. Uh-oh. What was that? Say, I hear them. Let's see.
Well, this session, please be seated.
All right. Why don't we get the lieutenant back up here? Thank you.
And sir, I remind you, you're still under oath.
Okay.
Yeah. Narcissism is the real pandemic. Well said.
Go right ahead, Mr. Lally.
So Lieutenant Woodbury, turning attention back to the treatment of Mr. O'Keefe in the back of the ambulance. Right?
Yes.
With respect to that, you testified that you don't recall sort of specifically anything as far as clothing for Mr. O'Keefe. Is that correct?
I was not paying attention to the clothing.
And so to that point, what were you paying attention to at that point?
Primarily, the big issue was doing the CCR, then just CPR. We're trying to resuscitate the person as best we can. We know with the hypothermic patient, it's very difficult. It's a longer treatment protocol than a typical cardiac arrest because we have to do the CPR for an extended period of time. We have to get the patient warmed up. So the clothing is just quickly removed versus examined or looked at. And the focus was on getting compressions done. Someone was trying to intubate, getting a line started. So that's what we're mainly focused on.
As far as treatment is concerned, what, if any, sort of interplay or intersection is there between a cardiac arrest and a hypothermic patient?
When someone's hypothermic and in a cardiac arrest, we can't declare them dead or passed on until they've been warmed up. A lot of times with hypothermic patients, they can appear to be dead when they're still actually alive. So there has been instances where people have woken up in morgues that were hypothermic when their body warmed up a little bit. So we have to be very cautious, very careful about, treating them as much as we can, as careful as we can. We can't shake them too much, can't move them too much. So it's getting the blood circulating and then starting ventilating after a few minutes.
Back to the CCR, the chest compression
Yep.
that we're talking about. What, if any, sort of, based on your training experience, what, if any, sort of protocols are? Well, let me ask you this. Were you doing chest compressions throughout the entirety of this interaction with the patient?
No, chest compressions, most people do them about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, it's very tiring to do chest compressions. So we swap off every few minutes. So a different person will come in and do the compressions. They'll do it for a little while, go into a different task. Someone else will come in and do compressions.
Is that sort of the protocol that you followed in this instance?
Yes. Yes, we were rotating the person doing compressions.
And the
Did they that
ambulance at
night?
some point leaves the scene and goes to the
No.
hospital, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know what hospital, Mr.
Good Samaritan Medical Center.
If you could just wait till.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Questions.
Yeah, a Good Samaritan Medical Center.
And did you go along for that ambulance ride?
No, I did not.
And where did you go?
So as the lieutenant on the engine, I stay with the engine. I detailed my 2 other engine personnel to the ambulance. So they went with the 2 engine personnel, the 2 regular people on the ambulance, as well as an additional person. Timmy Nuttall was the extra person for that one.
And so you take the engine and go with it.
I went back to the station.
And at some point shortly after that, are you called back to the roadway of Fairview Road?
Yes.
And same general area of Fairview Road?
Yes, same address.
And how is it that you get from the station back to Fairview?
So we had struck a box to cover the personnel that we had detailed. That means we send out a page looking for additional people to come in. We had Sam Pock come in. So he was my engine driver, and I was in the lieutenant's seat. We responded back in engine 4.
And the ambulance that had been there on Fairview Road with you previously was at Good Samaritan?
Yes. Yeah. A call like that takes an extended period of time, even at the hospital, to assist them there. So we had to get an ambulance from Station 2.
And if you know, who was on that ambulance from Station 2?
That was Jason Becker and Dan Whitley.
Now, with reference to this particular call, what, if anything, was this secondary dispatch with regard to?
So this call was for a Section 12, which is someone in having a psychological issue.
And do you know who that Section 12 was in regard to?
Yeah, this was for Karen Reed.
And at some point, you go back to the scene along with the engine and the second ambulance from Station 2?
Yeah, so the engine got there first. The ambulance coming from another station, so it was a couple extra minutes before they got there.
And when you arrived, who, if anyone else, was sort of on scene on Fairview Road?
The police were still on scene. They had never left. So initially it was me, Sam Pock, and the police. So I went up to try to get the backstory of why we're doing a Section 12 and what was going on.
And at some point, well, when you first arrived, without regard to what was said to you, but who, if anyone, do you speak with to sort of try to gain this information or backstory?
When I got onto the scene, I talked to the police that was there.
Who'd you talk to, sir? The police officer who was there?
Yes, sorry.
And do you recall specifically who that police officer was?
I really did not pay attention to the individual officer.
Of course not.
And at some point, do you have a conversation, or what, if any, conversations do you have with the patient, in this case, the defendant, Ms. Reed?
So it was when we identified Karen Reed as the patient, the ambulance arrived shortly after. We started talking to her and trying to get her into the ambulance to talk to her further.
And just to be clear for the records, when you say Ms. Reed, do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, she's right over there.
That's a record reflect identification of the defendant by the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with respect to the defendant, Ms. Reed, where is she sort of when you first make contact with her on scene when you come back?
In the general vicinity of where the police cars are.
And what is sort of the purpose of this initial conversation that you're having with Ms. Reed?
For a Section 12, that's when someone's made threats to them, harm themselves or others. So I just had to judge her mental ability at the time, and if she was a threat to us, and how much of a threat she was to herself. So just a quick evaluation, see how her behavior was.
And what, if any, observations did you make of her during your quick conversation?
She appeared very distraught, very upset. Initially just trying to explain the situation to her about going to the hospital with the Section 12, and she was resistant to that.
No doubt.
And so when you say she was resistant to that, what if anything, did she say or do to?
She did not want to go.
Hold on. You cannot talk over each other, the objection's overruled.
Yeah. Okay.
Please go ahead.
So what was the question again, please? Yeah.
So what, if anything, when you say she was resistant, what, if anything, did she communicate to you?
Of course it was
What
overruled.
observations did you make in regard to
She did not want to go to the hospital, and she didn't think she needed any assistance.
And what, if anything, are you sort of, you mentioned you were explaining sort of the process to her. What, if anything, are you saying in that explanation?
Well, once a Section 12 gets written, it's written by the police. Once it's written, we are required to transport to the hospital. Section 12 means that they believe you're a threat to yourself or others. So you have to get evaluated at the hospital by the hospital staff there to see how mentally stable you are.
Unreal, guys.
Now, at this time of this conversation, what, if anything, did you know as far as the relationship between Ms. Reed and the prior patient, Mr. O'Keefe?
I knew they had a relationship. I wasn't sure if they were married or engaged or what their status was, but I knew she was did have a strong relationship with him.
And in reference to Mr. O'Keefe, during your conversation with Ms. Reed, what, if anything, was she asking or saying in reference to Mr. O'Keefe?
She kept repeating, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" She seemed very concerned about that. We're trying to explain to her that we cannot declare him dead. He's being evaluated. He's being treated. They're trying to treat him the best they can.
No,
as far
don't.
as when she's stating these things to you, is this
Jesus.
as far as the sort of tonality of her voice?
I agree, JJ. I don't like him.
Describe that.
She was very up and down. It was a repetitive conversation with her. She's obviously experiencing a lot of different emotions. So just, her emotional state was all over the place.
And as far as this sort of second time that you're on scene, about how long period of time are we talking?
That was about between 15 and 20 minutes.
And as far as your conversation with Ms. Reed, where did she go? Did you stay with her sort of the entire time that she was on scene that second time, or?
Because she was resistant, we were trying to get her to voluntarily go. If someone voluntarily goes, even with the section written, they're released a lot quicker. So we're trying to convince her to be willing to go with us versus being forced. If at some point we have to actually force her to go against her will, then it's going to be a much longer hospital stay. So our main goal with staying on the scene so long was to try to get her willingly to go. Just makes her experience much better.
And just to be clear,
Why would you do that?
It was me, Dan Whitley, Jason Becker were the ones talking to her in the back of the ambulance.
Why would you do that?
When you clear, sort of when you leave the scene, where is Ms. Reed at that point?
So the ambulance transported her to the Good Samaritan. We also detailed Sam Park as the driver.
So the gentleman who had driven, or the firefighter that had driven you in the engine to the scene that drives the ambulance away?
Yes, correct.
Would you say his name again, please?
Sam Park.
Sam what?
Sam Park.
Spell it, please. The last name.
P-O-C-H is the last name.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Woodbury, you and I have never met or spoken, correct?
No.
I know you had said you were nervous, so I'm going to try and make this fairly brief,
Thank you.
sir.
No,
Just have a
you're
couple of
okay.
areas that I'd like to go
Okay.
through with. So with regard to your interaction with Karen Reed and what you actually heard from her mouth, that's sort of where I want to concentrate, as opposed to anything that anybody else may have said to you about what they believe she might have said. Okay?
Okay.
And it seems to me that your main interaction with her was not when the initial call came in to respond to, a man who was unresponsive in the snow. It was after you went back to the station in the engine and then came back to the scene for the purposes of the Section 12 that you described. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
And when you came back to the scene for the Section 12, it's also fair to say that the Section 12 issue was your focus, correct?
Correct.
You had an order in hand, correct?
The police had it and they gave it to us when we got there.
Right. Okay. So you got an order in hand once you got there.
Correct.
Which is what you expected to happen, correct?
Yes.
And your focus at that point is, okay, and I don't want to be too, flip, but we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Is that a fair characterization?
That is one way to put it.
And you wanted to do it the easy way.
Yes, correct.
And you wanted to persuade Karen Reed that she should want to do it the easy way, correct?
Yes.
And after some conversation back and forth where she was initially resistant, she eventually agreed, yes, I'll do, not to put words in your mouth or hers, but to the effect of, yes, we'll do this the easy way, correct?
Did get her to agree to transport.
Okay. And with regard to her state of mind, I believe you had testified that she appeared to be very distraught.
Yes, correct.
Going through a lot of emotions.
Yes.
Grief-stricken.
Oh, that's one of them, yes.
Hysterical at times.
Yes.
Raising her voice at times.
Yes.
Crying at times.
I didn't see any actual tears, but that type of emotional display.
All right. And so in terms of the only commentary that you heard with regard to her feelings or questions regarding John O'Keefe, it was the statements that you heard repetitively over and over and over again. Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead?
That was some of the things she was saying, yes.
And
I'd want to know.
May we approach sidebar briefly?
Okay.
I would want to know if that was my partner, God forbid, but if that was my partner, I would want to know the answer to that. Oh my God, it's not a show of guilt. Oh, what a bunch of dickwads. It's just like a sham. Is that what you call it, or shit? It's disgusting. I really hope somebody can come in here and straighten this case out. Straighten this judge out. Because I don't know what the hell she thinks she is, but she's just a judge. She wipes her butt the same as you and I. She's not God. She doesn't own the land. She's a judge. That's it. And there's a lot of judges out there. I don't think this is constitutional at all. We'll see what happens here. What is that, JJ?
So I
Lieutenant Woodbury,
I think, Ms. Giannetti, I think you need the actual.
Yes. I was going to ask a couple of questions first and then grab it.
But it's right there for when you need it.
Lieutenant Woodbury, on your direct examination, you testified a bit, and I don't want to block a jury here, I'm sorry. You testified a bit about the injuries that you observed on John O'Keefe when you first arrived at the scene, correct?
Yes.
You testified about the swollen eye,
Yes.
and you also testified about the scratch marks that you saw on his forearm, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to show you, I'm going to approach in a minute to show you what has been marked M for identification. And when I hand it to you, please keep it to yourself and look at it, and then look up at me when you're done, okay? Having reviewed M for identification, do you recognize what that depicts?
Yes.
What does it depict?
That is Mr. O'Keefe's right arm.
Does that photograph appear to be a fair and accurate representation of the scratch marks that you observed on January 29th of 2022, sir?
Yes.
I would offer that, Your Honor.
Okay. That will be our next exhibit. And again, we'll have to maybe renumber. Counsel, before you leave today, we have to figure out how to keep everything straight.
Understood.
You screwed up, Bev. Remember, numbers don't matter.
And with the court's permission, Your Honor, may I have that published on the screen for the jury?
Yes.
Poor
Now-
Mantis.
On direct examination, Lieutenant, hang on. Let me just have a moment. Good point. I'm going to try to get out of your way so everybody can see. With regard to the injuries that you described on direct examination, Lieutenant, I believe you would mainly concentrate.
I'm sorry, I need to, please take this down for me. I need to see counsel.
Fudge. Oh my God. What the hell is wrong with this woman? I'm sorry, guys. Oh. Yeah, lividity, right? Because he's been on his back. So it all pools on the back end. And it looks like that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. So what, are they not going to let them use? No, they don't, James. Just blows me away again. Like, there definitely is reasons why his family is right there. If it's not intimidation factor, I don't know what it is. And at one point, JJ, they said that his clothes were still on him and he was wearing a long sleeve shirt and the shirt wasn't ripped. The sleeves were not ripped. So how does all this happen? Yeah, exactly. It pooling. Bring in the clothes. And because those clothes ended up on the floor, you can just see Lally making a big deal out of that. Like, every single which way they messed up in this case. I think that's what I think, James. The seating plan is against her. Like, come on. I wouldn't want to be sitting there. Hello, hello, Dandy. Oh, just more. Oh, look at, we're looking at the fan again. She's got to rein everybody in, make sure everyone knows what they can and cannot say. Like the fact that she literally had them talk to that one firewoman or whatever she was before the jury came in was nasty. Nasty, nasty. And again, she breaks up things that are for the defense. That's who she keeps interrupting, not the state. I wonder if they'll show that big cranky girl again. Oh, it's sidebar. Of course. Anti-Bevener shenanigans. Take a load off, Fanny. Oh, that big blonde girl's not there anymore. This makes no sense. Like her family's over here. Jesus. What's this? I don't know how many we left at in the. Did we have 7 this morning? So I think that would put us at 9. Was it 7, guys? Jesus. It is. I was just thinking the same thing. And she was all worried about there not being enough room for people. Well, if she'd put everybody where they should probably be and take down the tape, I'm thinking we would have more room. Plus, there's seats that are behind those others. These ones here? Yeah. The press was only allowed to have 5 seats. Oh, yeah. That they do. But look at, there's a fair amount of seats back there, is there not? That's not where they should be. That cuts off the seating. They can only have so many seats, I guess. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this woman's mind. She's literally saying who can sit, come in and sit, and where, and how many. And I could think the press would be allowed in the extra seats, but no. Yeah, they would be good at poker. But what if they just switched out where her family's sitting with where his family's seating? And then they've got that tape. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. But why wouldn't they switch around where they're sitting and where she's sitting? Wouldn't the courtroom be safer if her parents and his parents kind of just switch sides? I love that Jackson prosecuted, who are we talking about? Phil Spector. I love that he prosecuted him. That's awesome. That guy was one strange dude. And I'm not sure, is he still alive? I don't think he is. There we go. All over me again. Yeah, well said. Common sense, not in Bev's court. Holy sheep shit. Oh, Oh, good job. I mean, he's doing a good job. So are you saying that Jackson has been working on that case as well in the meantime? $2020. He does. He definitely has some skills. And he's smart. He's friendly. Yeah. Phil Spector died in 2020. Okay. Gotcha. Oh, okay. Okay.
This court is in session. Please be seated.
So jurors, I can assure you that by Monday, I mean, we're in really good shape. It's an organizational situation that I have to deal with. So we've been dealing with that. We appreciate your patience and we are in good shape. And Ms. Gianetti, if you need the exhibit, it's here.
Terrific. May I have it published again on the camera?
Yes.
Now, Lieutenant, with regard to the injuries that you observed, did you notice any lividity on the body when you were looking at John O'Keefe?
Being hypothermic, he was very pale overall. So the skin wasn't pinked up yet. So it's hard to really judge the rest of the skin that way until it's warmed up and much later into the scene.
You are familiar with the term lividity, though?
Yes.
Could you just explain that?
That's like bruising. So the pooling of blood in lower sections. So for like a cardiac arrest patient, when they have lividity, it looks like bruising on the underside where all the blood has pooled. And we did not really notice that.
But it's not actually bruising from an injury. It's just the blood
settling down. It's the same thing, yes.
One at a time, please.
Yep, sorry. It appears like bruising, and bruising is basically pooling of blood under the skin. So lividity is just gravity-fed pooling of blood under the skin. And it usually happens what is the section of the body that is lowest.
I see. Okay. Now, with regard to the scratches that you've testified about and that you now observe on Exhibit 382, I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your testimony on direct examination was that you observed them in the forearm area, correct?
It was the right, like forearm to arm. I was trying to signal like right up here, but yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
It wasn't just on the
not just, it was the arm area. Yeah, mostly what I noticed was forearm, but there was some around there.
Okay, so it wasn't just below the elbow?
No, it wasn't up just below the elbow.
There was some above the elbow as well?
Yep.
That's consistent with Exhibit 382?
Correct.
I missed that moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
No further questions.
So Lally, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Lieutenant, thank you very much. So you're all
thank
set. Our next witness, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth would call Mr. Daniel Whitley to the stand.
Watch your step. Court, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the evidence given in the court and during the case now and hearing to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Looks like a cop to me. What do you think, JJ?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Daniel Whitley, Whitley.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a paramedic firefighter with the Town of Canton Fire Department.
Okay.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire?
I was hired in March of '06.
And prior to that work with the
big
Canton Fire
sigh.
Department, did you work within that same field in any other capacity for any other company?
Yes, correct. I worked for American Medical Response out of Brockton as an EMT intermediate and a paramedic for 5 years.
Well
And
said.
you're a certified paramedic, is that correct?
Correct.
Well
And how
said.
long have you held that certification?
It was, I believe, November of 2006 that I got that certification.
And is there any sort of continuing educational component or recertification process that's involved with being a certified paramedic?
Yes, we recertify every 2 years. We're required to hold basic life support card, which is just generally CPR, and advanced cardiac life support, which is ACLS. It's more dealing with EKGs and how to run resuscitations, cardiac arrests, things of that nature.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th and to January 29th of 2022, were you working with the Canton Fire Department on those dates?
Yes,
What kind of shift were you working?
24-hour shift, 8 a.m. to 8 a.m.
And where were you assigned on that particular day?
The Ponkbog Station, Station 2.
The Ponkabog Station, where is that located within?
The north side of town on Sassamon Street.
And how were you assigned to a specific duty or a specific?
Yes, I was assigned to Ambulance 2 with Jason Becker. As I was a field training officer at that point, and he was just finishing up his field training after he recently became certified as a paramedic.
And now, at some point shortly after 6 a.m., were you aware of a call or dispatch in regard to Station House 1?
Yes, we had just returned from a previous call about 5 a.m. and heard the tones go off. Actually, we were in the day room, which is where basically it's the living room of a fire station. And we heard the tones go off. We heard the police going to Fairview Road. And we just kind of sat and were wondering what was going on there.
Now, you yourself, you and firefighter Becker, were you dispatched to a call as well, approximately 6:41 or 6:42 a.m.?
Yes.
And at the time that you received that dispatch, what, if anything, were you aware of with regard to the prior call that the other ambulance? So when the tones go off between the two stations, we're able to hear what the dispatch complaint is, what they're going for, and it came in as, I believe, CPR in progress in the snow or something to that regard. So we knew that it was a fairly serious call that Station 1 had gone to. Now, when you received your dispatch at approximately 6:42 a.m. or so, what was that call in regard to, and where did you respond?
We were dispatched for a Section 12.
Let's throw them in the net.
As far as
like what?
Your assignments within the ambulance between yourself and firefighter Becker, with regard to this call, who was doing what?
I was driving. He's what we call the tech, the lead paramedic on the case. That's just generally how we operate.
And from your response, or you're driving from Station 2 to Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe or experience en route in between the two?
At that point, it was snowing pretty heavily. We were coming down Chapman Street, getting ready to take the right onto Fairview. We nearly slid off the road, making the turn onto Fairview. It was snowing that heavily, and I don't believe the roads had been really plowed or treated or anything like that for us to. So it was pretty slippery.
It
Now,
had
in
2
addition
inches of
to,
snow.
Ambulance number 2 that you and firefighter Becker were in, what, if any, other sort of vehicles or apparatus was dispatched to this call as well?
There was Engine 3, which is the District 1 engine, and at least 2 police cruisers. And then another gray SUV kind of further down from where we parked.
Now, when you arrive in this area on Fairview Road, what, if anything, do you sort of observe as far as who's there when you arrive?
When I got out, my Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Park were there.
And they were on the engine, is that correct?
They were on the engine, correct.
Now, beyond sort of the personnel from your department, you mentioned that there were some police officers there as well?
Yes, Mulaney and Sarif, and then two other females, at least two other females.
And the other two females, where were they when you first sort of get out of the ambulance?
A few yards ahead of us, a few dozen yards ahead of us, I'd say.
And were there any other vehicles beyond sort of first responders that you observed on?
Just that other gray SUV.
And so I guess my question is, where were the two females that you observed in relation to the gray SUV?
Near it, maybe in front of, maybe one was inside. There were three females there.
And at some point while you're on scene, you learned the identity of your patient, correct?
Yes.
And what was the name of the patient?
Karen Reed.
And you had some conversation with Karen Reed that day, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you see Karen Reed in the courtroom?
I do.
Could you just describe as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She's seated right at that table right there.
I'm sorry, if you could just point as to where she is.
Right here.
No, it's just that's record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, when you first sort of arrive on scene, who, if anyone, is the first person that you talk?
Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Park.
And following that conversation, who, if anyone, you speak to?
Probably briefly Lieutenant Mullaney, but more, I'm sorry, not Lieutenant, Officer Mullaney and Officer Sarah.
Now, following your conversation, well, let me ask you this sort of in general terms. When you respond to a call for a Section 12, what is sort of the protocol that you go through in regard to that?
Whether it's a Section 12 or any call, basically, the lead tech generally takes over immediate patient care, goes over, assesses. Usually the partner will go over and try and find out background details, try and find not only, well, especially for a Section 12, you want to get, the tech will get, which is Jason's role, the patient story, and then I'll get everyone else's story.
And at some point, you have a conversation with Ms. Reed as well.
Oh, yes.
And where is that in relation to vehicles on scene? So what is that initial conversation?
The initial conversation, she was very upset. She kept saying, so we had a Section 12 written, and that was to take her to the hospital because she made threats against her life, saying, I don't want to live anymore. If my husband dies, I don't want to be alive anymore. And myself and Jason and Lieutenant Woodbury were kind of like, well, that's seemingly more in the lines of normal grieving process after something traumatic happens to a loved one, whether they're going to die or not. We kind of didn't feel like it kind of led to that level of a Section 12 to have her transported to the hospital. So at that point, I exited the ambulance and I went to speak with Officer Saraf, and I said, this kind of doesn't, if we want her to be at the hospital, get a full eval, we're going to need more than just, if my husband dies, I want to die, because that seems just like normal grieving things to say. And so I went back to the ambulance. He went, I don't know where he went. I don't know whether it was cruiser or what, but he came back, notified me that her
sustained.
And from that conversation, did you receive more information or more clarity as to statements in Ms. Reed and me?
Yes, Officer Saraf had said that.
Objection.
So not what he said, sir. So
we were informed
unmuted.
that.
Objection.
I'm not sure.
So you can't testify to what somebody else told you. You can when there's no objection regarding what Ms. Reed told you,
Okay.
but you can't testify what anybody else told you.
Okay.
So when I say sustain, that means you have to stop.
Or dead, and we could not speak to that. She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours. And at that point, we were just trying to give her any hope that whomever A1 transported was still alive. And we kind of just talked about far off hypothermia cases where, you know, kids have fallen in rivers and been submerged for many minutes, maybe even hours, and survived with no neurological deficits. So we were just trying to give her some sort of hope on the way to the hospital that there was a chance that her husband could be alive.
Now, at this point, what, if anything, did you know about sort of the relationship between your patient, the defendant, Ms. Reed, and the patient from ambulance 1 that had been transported previously?
She identified him as her husband.
And is that something that you said once or more than once?
Many, many times.
Now, she
Nope.
asked you
I agree.
some questions about his status and made specific reference to his clothing. Is that correct?
The only thing I recall is asking if he could have survived without a jacket.
Now, as far as these conversations that you had with Ms. Reed, where did they occur in relation to the ambulance?
They were in the back of the ambulance.
And who, if anyone, was present in the back of the ambulance beyond yourself and the defendant?
Jason Becker.
And with reference to, you mentioned that firefighter Becker was sort of the lead paramedic or the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Yes.
So is there, from sort of his role and your role, what are some of the sort of differences in the duties and responsibilities in relation, we'll call it?
So for any Section 12 or our department policy is there will be 2 EMTs, paramedics, firefighters with during transport at all times. That's both for our safety and the patient safety. So that's why it wasn't just 2 EMTs or paramedics driving to the hospital. I was in back with Jason, and Sam Park was driving.
Now, as far as you testified earlier about observations of her being upset or distraught, is that correct?
Correct.
Was that consistent throughout your interaction with her, or?
No. There would be episodes where she would like go from crying in her hands to all of a sudden perking up. She was crying about having to take care of kids, saying she couldn't do it. And I was saying, you know, you can do this. It's not as hard as it seems. She kept saying, I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids and they're not his kids. That's when I figured out who ambulance 1 transported.
What?
And I was saying, well, it seems like you have a good, strong support system. People who came and helped you in a blizzard to help come find your husband. She said, she asked me if I knew Kerry Roberts. I said I did. She said anybody who knows Kerry Roberts wouldn't say those things. And that kind of took me aback a bit. It seemed strange to say something like that after you were just crying because your husband was dead.
I don't know about this guy.
I was just kind of surprised.
If I could take you back within that just for a minute. So you had testified that during that, her description, you
Sounds like
sort
it,
of
Dandy.
realized who was the patient in ambulance 1, is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if anything, made you realize what you
Brutal.
think it was?
I live in and grew up in the Ponksbog neighborhood of Canton. And Mr. O'Keefe was known for taking on his niece and nephew after, I'm sorry, I'm not sure positive of the relationship, but I believe it was his sister and his brother-in-law passed away. And it was something people admired him for, people looked up to him for. But I was able to, I also,
Unreal.
I moved into the Ponksbog neighborhood back after living outside of Canton for a few years. The O'Keefes lived diagonally across from me. I never had any sort of interaction with him or anything. When I moved in, my wife was probably about 6 months pregnant, and I had 2 toddlers, so I was pretty busy. I figured he was pretty busy. I never even had a chance to introduce myself or anything before he moved to Meadows, which is how I kind of figured out.
Your Honor, I object to this line of question.
Okay, next, sustain. Next question.
Now, you had also mentioned during your conversation with the defendant that she had said some things about Kerry Roberts, correct?
Correct.
And how is it that you know Kerry Roberts?
Well, Kerry lives around the corner from me.
Objection.
No, I'll allow that. Next question, please.
How long have you known Kerry Roberts?
Just from moving back into the neighborhood, she would run the neighborhood block party, and she put out that she would like the fire truck there on the neighborhood Facebook page. So I volunteered to bring the fire truck to the neighborhood block party.
And was Ms. Roberts seen on Fairview when you arrived in your ambulance?
Yes.
So she was one of the other females along with the defendant?
Correct.
Now, with reference to when you brought up as far as support system and included Ms. Roberts within that, what, if anything, did the defendant say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustain. Next question, please.
This conversation that you had with the defendant in the ambulance, about how long a period of time are we talking about?
20, 25 minutes.
And beyond what you've already testified to, what did sort of that conversation consist of, or what was the sort of tone and tenor of that conversation?
Again, we were just trying to give her any support. She was, once we were getting closer to the hospital, we
Objection.
So the tone and tenor. So what can you tell us about that? That's admissible, Mr. Yannetti. Go ahead.
The tone, she would go from being almost despondent to when she asked me if I knew Kerry Roberts.
What's going on there,
tone I
guys?
can use to describe it as snarky.
Objection. Move to strike.
I'll strike that.
They're paying attention to this
Now-
guy.
You transported to a Good Samaritan, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you, during the transport, where are you in relation to Ms. Reed from Fairview to Good Samaritan?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
During the transport, Ms. Reed is where within the
I believe we have what we call a tech bench, which is a long bench. There's the ambulance stretcher, and then next to the ambulance stretcher is, we call it the CPR seat. And then that's where Miss Reed sat. And then I was in what we call the airway seat, which is basically like a captain's chair behind the stretcher.
And in addition to yourself and the defendant, who, if anyone else was sort of in the back of the ambulance at that time?
During transport?
Yes.
During transport, it was just me, Jason Becker, and Miss Reed.
So yourself along with firefighter Becker and the back, right?
Correct.
Who was driving the ambulance?
Sam Park.
Now, when you arrived at Good Samaritan, what, if anything, happened?
Miss Reed was asking to be able to see John, and I made the decision that I would run ahead to see if that was in the realm of possibility with the emergency room physician there. So I ran ahead. I came into they call it the code room at Good Sam, and I asked if the wife could see the husband. The ER doctor asked if she would be upset. I said, if she would be upset if she was allowed to or not. And I said she's going to be upset. I believe she's going to be upset either way. He was asking if she would get in the way of the resuscitation efforts, and I said it's possible. She's very upset.
And so, once you arrive at the hospital with the patient, where do you go along with Ms. Reed?
We escorted her down to we call it the psych hall or the behavioral hall at Good Sam.
And about how long was it after you escorted her into the hospital that you stayed with her following that?
At least 10 minutes.
And during those 10 minutes, how would you describe sort of her behavior or demeanor during that time?
Objection.
No, he can testify to that.
He was giving the nurses a hard time about, I'm sorry, she was giving the nurses a hard time about having to get into a Johnny, about having to submit a urine sample. Even the AR techs went to the physician who was in the code room to see if she could not have to wear a Johnny, and the ER doc said no. If she's in the psych hall, she's a psych patient, needs to be in a Johnny. So at that point, there was just a nurse and a tech. We don't usually leave a psych patient with just a single nurse and a tech. And so we decided to wait until security had gotten there before we left.
May I have one moment?
Yes.
So they did what with her? Oh my God, man. So did they, I don't know what's called, Section 8 or Section 813?
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Oh, why? What?
So, Mr. Whitley, when you showed up, you learned that Karen Reed was the patient that you were to deal with, correct?
Correct.
And it was your expectation that she would be going to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
One of the things that you do when you transport somebody to the hospital is you try to get a medical history, correct?
Yep.
Why is that important?
Generally, we get pertinent medical history to pass on to the hospital. So if something were to happen where the patient wasn't able to describe their past medical history, it gets passed on to the next caregiver, which would be the nurses, doctors at the hospital.
Okay. More information is always better than less information, correct?
I would say so.
And with regard to Ms. Reed, did you take a medical history from her?
I assume Jason did.
Okay. Did you learn the results of that medical history?
You'd have to refer to Jason's report.
I may have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Mr. Whitley, if I I'm actually going to show you two documents with your permission. One would be Jason's report.
Okay.
And you were talking about Jason Becker, correct?
Correct.
The other is a police report from Sergeant Yuri Buchnick. I'm going to give you the second page of that.
So let's do them one at a time.
Sure. And you've asked for Jason Becker's report, so I'll give you that first, okay?
Okay.
And when I approach you, I'm going to hand this to you, and I just ask you to look at it silently by yourself.
Okay.
And then look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
That's unreal. How are you supposed to act? Happy? Like, give me a freaking break. Wow, bozo. I knew I was going to do that. Exactly.
Going to collect that
Oh, my
here if you
all
don't
over
mind.
my face.
The first report was the first report from my lieutenant.
Was Jason Becker's report included in it as
Yes.
well?
Yep.
Having reviewed those documents, does that refresh your memory as to the medical history that was taken?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about that?
Just lists multiple sclerosis.
What is multiple sclerosis?
I believe it's a neurodegenerative
Yes,
disease
there
where
is.
the myelin sheeting
Both
of the trying to think of the word here, but
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
no, I understand.
I'm sure you do. It's a disease.
It's a disease that's progressive and has neurological muscle control
Another
things involved with it.
And when you say progressive, that means it gets worse over time as you age?
As I understand it.
And that was the medical history you got from Karen Lee?
Correct.
I'm nothing further.
Whoa.
All right. So, sir, you are all set. Thank you, Mr. Whitley. Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor, we'll call Mr. Jason Becker to the stand.
Oh, what? Wow. Wow. Oh, lolly, lolly.
Please watch your step. Face that clerk, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear the understanding of the court and jury in the case now hearing should be true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
First name is Jason, last name is Becker, Becker.
Oh, just a
And, what do
happy
you do for work,
mofo.
I'm a firefighter paramedic, Canton Fire Department.
And
Don't look
how long
healthy
have you been a
enough.
member of the Canton Fire Department?
Not to be
5.5
rude.
years.
And prior to that, what if any other employment did you have sort of within that same field?
Wow.
I worked at Found Ambulance and South Shore Hospital.
How long did you work at each of those respective positions?
Found Ambulance was about 5 years. South Shore Hospital, approximately 3 years.
And with regard to South Shore Hospital, what is it that you did there?
I was a nursing assistant in the emergency room.
And with regard to your work as a firefighter paramedic for the Canton Fire Department, you were a certified paramedic?
Yes.
He's
And,
white
when
as a
did you
ghost.
first receive that certification?
October 2021.
And is that something that you receive, or when you receive that is something that goes on in perpetuity, or is that something that you have a continuing educational component or recertification?
Con Ed education, every 2 years you have to recertify.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 to January 29th, 2022. Were you working on that occasion?
I was.
And where were you assigned? I'm sorry. What type of shift were you working on that occasion?
What type of shift?
Yes, like what hour to what hour?
8 a.m. to 8 a.m., 24 hours.
So 8 a.m. on the 28th until 8 a.m. on the 29th.
Correct.
And where were you assigned on that day?
I was at Canton Station 2, Ambulance 2.
And who, if anyone else, was assigned with you to Ambulance 2 at Station 2 on that day?
Daniel Whitley, firefighter Daniel Whitley.
Now, at some point when you were working on the 29th, shortly after 6 a.m. or so, did you become aware of a call for station house number 1.
Yes.
And what, if anything, were you aware of as far as that earlier call?
As far as a man down in the dispatch, and I believe it was upgraded eventually to CPR in progress.
Now, at some point following that, approximately 6:41 a.m. or so, did you, your station house get a?
Yes.
And what that dispatch in regards to?
A psych eval, possible section 12.
And in addition to yourself and firefighter Whitley in ambulance 2, what, if any, other sort of vehicles or apparatuses were dispatched by your department to that call as well?
Canton engine 3.
And if you know, who, if anyone, was on Canton engine 3 at that time?
Lieutenant Greg Woodbury, firefighter Sam Park.
Now, with regard to the ambulance that you were in with firefighter Whitley, what were sort of let me ask you this, between sort of call volume, what, if any, sort of policy or protocol is there as far as who does what on a particular call?
We switch off.
And so on this particular call that you were dispatched to Fairview Road, what were sort of each of your respective duties and responsibilities between yourself and firefighter Whitley?
Firefighter Whitley was the driver at that point, and it was my tech is what it's called. So the next patient would be mine.
And so as sort of you were the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Correct.
And so as far as the lead tech's role, what, if any, duties or responsibilities do you have in regard to writing a report?
It's my report. That'd be right.
May I approach you, witness?
Yes.
With documents, it's actually review that look up for me.
The first report up here is the engines. Second one would be mine.
You recognize the first few pages of that as the engines report, and the last few are yours, correct?
Correct.
And that's your report with relation to this dispatch and this call, correct?
Correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want the seat to introduce and admit as the next.
So both reports through this witness? Is there any objection?
May I just take a look at the DA's copy?
Oh, Lolly, come on. Why are Lolly's ears so red?
May we approach?
Okay.
Oh, Lolly doesn't like it. They need like a barrier between those guys. Holy smokes. There's always got to be some ish every trial. Oh, that could be it, Tony. That would make total sense. Total sense. Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable knowing that all those people are just sitting there. Like, I put myself sitting there with all those people boring down on me with their eyes. It'd be like, oh my God, really? Okay, so that's husband and wife. So John's brother and John's brother's wife. And then the dad. Oh, big sigh.
Bless you.
Bless you.
She had to take 3 steps.
With that addendum, I would seek to introduce and admit that as the next exhibit.
Not that I know of, Tony.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, can I return the report to the witness?
Yes.
Just a moment. Now, sir, when you first sort of arrive in the area of 34, when you arrive in the area of Fairview Road, what, if anything, is it that you first observe upon your arrival?
Coming down the street or on scene?
Yes, coming down the street.
Coming down the street, live police lights. You can see the fire engine, and which is, I believe I said it's one black SUV.
And where is it that you and the ambulance sort of park in reference to those other vehicles that you see?
I believe we parked. If the SUV was facing towards us, we parked to the left. I don't recall where the police cruiser was, though.
And when you first arrive there, who, if anyone, is it that you first speak with when you get there?
When we got out of the ambulance, I passed Officer Saraf and Officer Mulaney. They kind of briefed us, and then I walked over to the black SUV.
And when you walk over to the black SUV, who is it that you observe in that black SUV?
I saw two females.
And of those two females, do you see one of them in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
Right over there, the jacket on.
That's the record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the defendant, Ms. Reed, where within the vehicle is she when you first come up to the vehicle on the floor?
When I remember, she was in the front passenger seat.
And what, if any, knowledge that you have as far as the defendant, Ms. Reed, and her relationship to the earlier call that ambulance wanted to dispatch?
Very little. I think we had gotten briefed that she was the wife of the previous patient.
And was that something that she had stated or something that somebody else had stated? Where does that awareness come
I believe it was one of the Canton police officers that said it.
I'm sorry, what was that answer?
It was one of the Canton police officers.
Okay.
And so when you walk up to the car, what is it that you say to her, or what, if any, conversation did you have with Ms. Reed at that point?
So I went up to the window and introduced myself and just kind of asked what was going on.
And how did she respond to that?
She was kind of, she was distraught. She was crying. She kind of told us that the statements she may have made, she didn't mean it because of the current events that she had just gone through.
What, if anything, did she say about that? If anything, did she say about what she had gone through?
That she had just done CPR on her husband.
And so she referred to him as her husband as well?
Yes.
And this conversation that you had sort of at the side of the SUV, was that through the door, through the window?
From what I recall, it was through the window.
And at some point, does the conversation move to the ambulance?
Correct.
About how long was the conversation at the vehicle before the conversation shifted to the ambulance?
Don't get too upset now.
5 to 10 minutes.
And as far as your dispatch for a psych or a section 12, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain to the jury sort of that process, just in general terms first, as far as what does that process entail?
And when we get on scene?
Yes.
For a section?
Yes, please.
We go on scene, we kind of look at the environment, see what the environment's like, see if the patient's cooperative, uncooperative, what their demeanor is, if there's any obvious self-harm. If there's none, we kind of go up and talk to them, get a report, and ask them some basic triage questions.
And is that sort of the policy or the protocol or what you followed in this instance with Ms. Reed?
Correct.
Now, beyond what she had indicated to you initially, what, if anything, was she asking you during the course of your conversation with her once you were in the ambulance?
She kept asking if he was dead or could he be dead.
Is that something that she said once or more than once or something?
More than once.
And could you describe sort of the tone of her voice when she was saying?
It was pretty, it's kind of like it was a rapid kind of pressured speech. She was just a lot repetitive.
And
Yeah.
as you were speaking with her, what, if any, observations did you make of her facial area?
She had blood on her face and her neck and her mouth, her neck and chin.
In her nectarine.
Regard to sort of any earlier suicidal statements, what, if anything, did she say in relation to that?
She said she made them because she just went through traumatic events, seeing her husband dead, and she had no plan on acting on it.
Now, pursuant to a Section 12 call, what, if anything, are you doing as far as documentation goes with respect to vital signs, things like that?
It depends on the situation. In a situation of misreads, I took a regular, just vital signs, pulse oximetry to see her heart rate. But for someone like a female psych patient, it's more verbal.
And as far as any of those sort of vital signs and things that you took, what, if anything, abnormal did you note in regard to that?
Nothing too abnormal. Just the heart rate might have been a little bit high, but within normal range.
Could you please keep your voice up, sir? Thank you.
Sorry. But the vital signs, her heart rate was a little high, it was 98, but it was nothing concerning.
During the time that you're having this conversation with her in the back of the ambulance, how would you describe her demeanor?
She would have periods of calmness, and then other periods she would appear agitated because she didn't want to go to the hospital. But all in all, she was cooperative with us.
Why is he looking at the ground?
Now, at some point, there is a
That was weird.
cooperative, correct, and agrees to go?
Eventually, yes.
When you say eventually, was there some conversation related?
We kind of mentioned to her basically what a Section 12 is. And unfortunately, she'd have to come with us involuntarily.
So you're explaining the process to her, is that correct?
Correct.
Eventually, she agrees to go, correct?
Correct.
And
This is brutal.
as far as the transport goes, who, if anyone, is in the back of the ambulance with her during the transport period?
Me and firefighter Whitley.
And who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance to the hospital?
Firefighter Park.
And which hospital did you transport Ms. Reed?
We went to the Good Samaritan Hospital.
Now, during the course of transfer to the hospital or transport, what, if anything else, did Ms. Reed say with reference to children?
She was talking about children. She was unsure and she didn't know if she'd be able to take care of them. She was worried about that.
She was worried about that.
Yeah, she's worried about who would take care of the children if he was pronounced dead.
And what, if anything, did she say about herself in reference to the children?
She didn't think that she could take care of them on her own.
Now, as far as this other person or the patient from the earlier call, how did she refer to that person in relationship to yourself?
She was calling him the husband.
Now, with reference to this particular, with reference to Ms. Reed in this conversation, what, if anything, did she say in regards to the last time that she had spoken to who she called her husband?
She had said that they had gotten into an argument. She was sad because that was the last thing she had said to him was the argument, but she didn't go into detail on what the argument was about or what was said.
Now, with regard With regard to her speaking about children, what, if any, further conversation did either yourself or firefighter Whitby have with her in regard to that?
With children?
Yes.
I don't recall.
The other female party that Ms. Reed was initially with in the vehicle when you first arrived, did you know who that was?
I don't know who she was.
And at any point in time, subsequent to that, did you learn who she was?
I did.
And who did you learn her to be?
She was Ms. Carrie Roberts.
And with relation to your conversation with Ms. Reed on that day of January 29th, what, if anything, did she say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained.
Awkward silence.
The
Didn't expect that, did you, Lally?
with regard to the sort of medical questions that you were asked, from those medical questions, what, if any, questions would you typically ask someone with relation to consumption of alcohol or drugs?
Well, probably part of the psych assessment, I asked if she had taken any drugs or alcohol, and she had denied it at that point.
She said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
The observations that you testified to earlier in regard to her, and by her I mean Ms. Reed's demeanor, did that change at all during the course of your interaction with her, or was that consistent?
Demeanor as in?
It's a poorly phrased question. Let me try and rephrase it. So with regard to her demeanor, throughout the course of your interaction with her, how would you describe that?
She was cooperative. Then she'd be calm, and then eventually she would kind of get a little agitated and repetitive questions. But she seemed distraught.
I guess
Now,
so.
with respect to the person she indicated was her husband, what, if any, questions did she ask either you or firefighter Whitley or both in relation?
She was asking if he was dead. Or could he be dead? Could he be dead? And she said, could I have hit him?
Was that something that she asked once or more than once?
It wasn't a lot. It was more of, could he be dead? Could he be dead?
So somewhat repetitive, is that correct?
Correct.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Anything you want, Mr. Lally?
Firefighter Becker, just my own clarification. You testified earlier that first arriving on scene and first spoke with Ms. Reed, she indicated that there was some statements that she said there were some statements that she did not mean, correct?
Correct. Suicidal statements.
And so, exactly. So my question is, that was in reference to the suicidal statements she had made prior to your arrival, correct?
Correct.
Not to any subsequent statements, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Ron.
Fine, dandy. Okay, let's see how this goes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You and I have never met, right?
I believe so.
I wanted to go back to one piece of testimony that you offered on direct examination, if I may.
Sure.
You had, in response to a question from the prosecutor about the medical history and your question to Ms. Reed about whether she had had any alcohol to drink. I believe your answer today was she denied having drank alcohol the night before?
As at the time that she was, I mean, she could have, I don't know if she drank alcohol the night before, but at that time I asked if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
I'm sorry, if I just didn't hear.
Yeah, you need to keep your voice up, sir. Speak
Okay.
directly into
Sorry.
the microphone.
I asked her if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
Oh, if she had any drugs.
Well, if she taken any drugs or alcohol, she said no.
Did you specify a time period?
I just assumed it'd be the last few hours for the reason why we were there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Unsure if she had alcohol days prior, but for the reason why we were there.
Okay. So was it your understanding that the two of you had an understanding of what you were asking?
Sure.
Objection, move to
Yeah,
strike.
yeah. So the objection sustained. It's stricken. Ask the question differently, Ms. Tianetti.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. So I guess with regard to your intent and your state of mind when you were asking that question, you were asking, had you taken any drugs or alcohol within the last few hours? That's what you meant to ask?
Objection.
So the objection sustained.
What did you specifically ask?
So when I ask a patient if any drugs or alcohol, I'm talking about at that point in time, an hour before, 2 hours before, not days before, weeks before.
Okay.
So-
And this was at 6:40 in the morning?
Correct.
Did you smell any alcohol on her at that time?
I did not.
Okay. You would agree that she did tell you at some point that she had alcohol the night before, correct?
No.
All right. So this is now, what's today, May 3rd of 2024?
Correct.
And this happened back in January, on January 29th of 2022?
Correct.
You were interviewed by a Trooper Michael Proctor on February 14th of 2022. Do you recall that?
I recall meeting with him, yes.
And February 14th of 2022 would have been a little bit more than 2 weeks after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Your memory of what Karen Reed told you about whether she had anything to drink the night before would have been much better on February 14th of 2022 when you were talking to Trooper Michael Proctor than it would be today, correct?
Correct.
Because your memory doesn't get better over time, correct?
Certain circumstances, sure.
And with regard to whether Karen had indicated that she took any drugs, you told Trooper Proctor she said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
With regard to whether she had had alcohol the night before, you told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that she did consume alcohol last night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to see a sidebar on this. Please bring that with you, please.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lordy. Here we go, guys. She didn't do this to the prosecution even one time. Not even one time. Oh, my Lord. Oh, lolly, lolly, lollipop. Ba, ba, bum, bum, bum. Oh, lolly, lolly, lollipop. That's an old song. Lollipop, lollipop. Oh, lolly, lollipop. Is that the
Did you miss
song?
anything? Did you not hear?
Oh, lolly.
With your permission, I'll repeat the question.
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that Karen had told you that she did consume alcohol the previous night, correct?
If that's in his notes,
Well, is your memory exhausted as to whether you told him that?
I don't recall.
If
Oh,
you saw
here
his
we
report
go.
With your statements in it, would that refresh your memory?
Sure.
Here we
It's a two-page
go.
report. I'll give you both, actually. It's a two-page report. I'll give you both pages. But I have
Don't
highlighted a line on the second page, so I would direct you to that. May I approach?
Yes. And take your time reading it, sir.
Yes, yeah. And please read it silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Unreal. I don't recall. Well, here, read this. I wonder how many people really dislike this judge out there. I bet there's lots. I bet you most of the lawyers.
So I did say.
So, Mr. Becker, a couple of things. Wait for a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But also,
Sorry.
you have to keep your voice up.
Okay.
I'm close to you and I'm having trouble hearing you. Most
Okay.
of the jurors are further away.
And the way this works is I have to collect that from you and then ask you a question, okay?
So,
I may approach you on it.
Yes.
Having reviewed that document, does that refresh your memory as to whether or not Karen Reed, or strike that? Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to the fact that you...
Does that refresh your memory?
Does that refresh your memory?
it does.
And so did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 14th that Karen Reed had told you on January 29th that she had consumed alcohol the night before that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Wow, this
Is
woman.
it fair to say that when you were listening to her talk at times, that her speech
Oh,
was
yeah, my
very
goodness.
rapid?
Correct.
And particularly when she had said the words, is he dead? Is he dead? She would repeat it repetitively, correct?
Correct.
And she was fixated on that, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the last interaction that she spoke about with
They need to look at her.
whom you thought she said her husband, she didn't detail about that, correct?
She did not.
You don't know whether it was an in-person communication?
That wasn't my position to ask more details about that.
Oh, and I'm not criticizing you, sir. I'm just trying to get to what your knowledge was in terms of
Right.
information you got from her. So she didn't specify that it was an in-person communication, correct?
No,
She's
She
even
didn't
finishing
specify
their
whether it was a phone
questions.
conversation.
she did not.
She didn't specify whether it was a text message exchange
Oh,
back and forth.
lordy,
She did not.
lordy.
And she didn't specify whether it was an angry voicemail that she left, correct?
I can't
She did
handle
not.
her. She was literally
No further
finishing the
questions. Thank you.
defense's questions.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
What the hell is that? Holy. This is beyond having a tight ship, running a tight ship. This is more than that.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Mr. Becker or Firefighter Becker, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
You're all set.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not the bitch I
Yes, you
look
can
like.
leave that right where it is. Thank you, sir.
You can leave that right where it is. Hope she doesn't have kids. 'Cause they're going to be kamikaze.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
May we approach?
Sure.
Here we go, Lally. Oh my God, this woman. It's almost like the defense has been warned. It is. It is. Sitting from where we are sitting, I wouldn't care if I was sitting here with you guys or watching it by myself in the living room. I would be sitting there saying the same damn shit as I'm saying now. So I'm very grateful to have y'all for my company. Thanks for hanging out with me. Just wow. Yeah, right? Well said. Jesus. This, I mean, it's just disgusting. I wonder
Does
if
it make sense that rather than starting with another witness, figure it's a Friday afternoon, it's been a long week for you all, we'll excuse you at this point. So please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, disregard it and let us know. And have a great weekend. Monday will be a full day. We'll see you first thing Monday morning.
Oh shit. This was no long leave. They were barely there. Oh, you guys. She doesn't look happy either. Where they are, it is 3:30, 20 to 4. I think it's 2 hours, right? Yep. 20 to 4. Unreal.
May be seated.
I think there's an exhibit in the witness stand. All right, because I've decided that it makes more sense to do exhibits the old-fashioned way because it's simply not working out. My suggestion is that we take what we have that have actually been introduced, because I know you pre-marked nearly 600 exhibits. They have not been introduced into evidence. So we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 14, 18, and there are additional that are in the 300s and 200s. So what I would like to do is take all of these, and I know Madam Court Reporter has been great about sticking around all late during the week to pre-mark things. This is more important to me that we get the record straight from this point. I would prefer the jurors to have the exhibits in order and not have numbers 200 and 300 in where they should be 15 and 16. So what I would like you to all do is take a look at the exhibits that have actually been introduced. Their prior numbers, if you have referred to them by their prior numbers, I will permit you for the rest of the trial to say previously referred to as 308, but now exhibit 15, until you feel you don't need to do that anymore. So it means things are going to have to be renumbered. So,
you caused
Madam
this.
Court Reporter, was there anything else we needed to discuss on this? Is there anything else you need from the lawyers?
They both look shocked.
So, I don't want to use your name. You've got a list of
They both
everything,
look
and Ms.
surprised.
McDermott's got a list of everything that's been introduced. Do you need me to do this, or is this something you can all do with Madam Court
Hey,
Reporter?
Carrie.
And I want to come out and make sure it's right. All right, so why don't you all take 10 minutes to see if you can work this through. I'll come out at the end of 10 minutes, see what you have, and we'll make sure the record's straight. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. The only thing that I would ask to add to that, Your Honor, is in conformity with the court's ruling as far as redaction to the run sheets and the run reports. I'm not sure if they've been stickered or not, but there are medical records with regard to both the victim and the defendant that would be in there, and I would ask for them to either be marked for identification or taken out at this point. Okay. Ms. McLaughlin indicates they haven't been marked yet, so I would just ask to sort of retrieve.
All right, so that's sort of the second point. I assume there are many pages of medical records, and one of the things I told you this morning is if records are going to be introduced subject to redactions. Those redactions have to be done before they're introduced. It's going to take some time. So you have to be, if you're not in agreement, then you need to tell me what you're not in agreement over, and I'll have to decide it, but they need to be redacted beforehand. Just because this is a long trial, I don't want it to take any longer than it necessarily has to be. And we have to make sure all of the exhibits are in order, especially if they do end up numbering in the hundreds. So, all right, so you've factored that into your schedule. We've got many days that we won't be in session. It seems like a good use of council's time to redact records and talk. If you need additional time and we need to cut into the evidence, I'd prefer not to, but I need to know. All right. So I have received from the Commonwealth all of the videos that I requested. I received a flash drive today. When can I get the videos? I thought I was clear yesterday. Apparently I wasn't. So when can I get all of the videos that the defendants intend to introduce? I had hoped to look at them over the weekend.
We can do, it's not a matter of getting them onto a flash drive. That's quick. It's just a matter of getting them to the court. So I would invite the court to direct us how, if you would use the weekend, let us know. We work on Saturdays and Sundays.
So so you can't do it today? You can't do it before you leave? I don't think your IT person's here, right?
I might.
Oh, if you can do it before you leave, if he can just download it onto a flash drive, that would be great. Do you want to go talk to him and see how long?
You might be able to do that.
We may be able to do that.
Why don't you talk to him?
Jesus, this woman.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
We won't leave until we give it to you.
That would be great. And Ms. Gianetti, yesterday you did say that you'd also give me some idea on why you think they're coming in.
Sure.
Okay, so if you have that, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right.
You I just want to make sure I'm very clear about what the court would like. We provided the double videos, the ones that we had put the good and Seraph cameras together. The court wants every single video that we intend to produce?
Yes.
For the rest of trial?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
All right, and that's what I requested from both of you. I received, Ms. Gilman, tell me if I'm wrong, but Mr. McDermott handed me a flash drive today that said this was all the Commonwealth's video exhibits. Yes.
And that was after we met this morning, correct? Okay.
All right, so that'd be great. I just, I want to know what's on them. I was surprised yesterday, and
understood.
I shouldn't be surprised.
Understood.
All right, so I'll come out after you remark the exhibits. Do you need a break before then, Madam Court Reporter? Mr. McDermott? All right, thanks.
Court, all rise, please.
Oh my God. This is nauseating. She thinks she needs to know. Oh my God. She's just not being fair. She's just not being fair.
Hey there, Karen Reed, trial watchers. You know what a lot of the trials we cover remind me? It's that you got to be careful who.
Yes. Lordy, lordy. It's a commercial. Yeah, it seems like not. She needs to know every single thing, every piece of paper. No, it didn't. It was just more of the same. Just more of the same. Yeah, right, James? That's true. Yeah, we had lunch. They had lunch, I guess, and did their little drive around, their little field trip. She sent everybody home, raised some shit, and that's that. Here we go. She's a hot mess. She tells them to do one thing, and then when it ends up that it's wrong, she basically blames it on them and wants them to snap, 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 be fast at getting her everything that she needs. It's like, whoa. Unreal. You can tell that the prosecutors have worked with her before. You can tell, absolutely. And she's just throwing things left, right, and center to the defense who don't know her. She's just leaving a very, very bad impression. It blows me away. So 10 minutes, and I think they're getting a couple things ready for her, and then I don't know. Will she send them home? Didn't she say we have lots of days that we're not in trial, so that seems like a good time to make it's a good time to make yourself basically she was saying work weekends because that should be good enough for you. Don't worry about your families, don't worry about anybody else, and if you've got other cases, screw them, because I think that would be the best way to make time of your weekends. Alrighty then. And what's she going to do over the weekend? I wonder. Oh, F all? So there's that. It's just, she's so infuriating to me that and she doesn't get better. She just pushes the envelope and pushes the envelope and pushes like, oh la. Yeah, change litter boxes. Yeah, Martha's Vineyard. No doubt. Oh my God. Feed cats and polish your broomstick. Isn't it disturbing, you guys? Like, isn't it just totally disturbing to watch her mess with this trial even while it's going on? Yeah, you can hurry that up. We don't need to hear that. Oh, we don't need to hear that. Oh, we don't need numbers. You don't need numbers. Well, they seem to in every other trial. Oh, guess what, guys? Yeah, the numbers are all screwed up now. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. How do they get to these positions? Like, I'm really curious. Some of these people, I don't know how they are actually on the bench. The shite hawk, this piece of work, it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, I've seen some really good ones since we started this track. I've seen some really, really good ones, but we happen to have two really, really bad ones right now. And that's harsh because you just want justice. I mean, if it's the truth, say it. If it's not, keep your lips shut. Don't say a damn thing. Like, you don't make up stuff and just throw it into the, like, oh my God, man. Yeah, it's all recorded, so I hope she can be reprimanded. Oh, it is. I mean, they've got that court reporter in there just a boogieing. I don't imagine it'll take too much longer. She'll probably go, yeah, 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 and off I go to Cape Cod. Oh my God. I'm going to start doing traffic reporting. Mind you, I'm sure that would crank me up too. I've seen lots of people that shouldn't have licenses. Oh my goodness. But I think it was James that said this earlier, like, it's a little bit surprising, maybe it was Tony, that this is all being streamed anywhere that's got internet, which is almost every place nowadays, like countries. And this ish is going on and she's okay with it? Like, you go home and watch yourself on the telly and see what you think. Nepotism. All these little nepo babies running around. I don't know what her problem is. Yeah, gonna go rub noses with the rich and famous. Ooh la la. Do you know how many of those people are arseholes that I wouldn't give the time of day to? I couldn't handle it. Once you start to get to that level of arrogance, I'm like, no. No, I can't be your friend. It's true though, right, Carrie? It's like, what? It's yeah, not interested. Unless you're one of the rare ones that you can have all these big bucks and know that you're an equal. But I'm not finding that a lot in society. I haven't forever, probably, and it's just getting worse. Oh, goodness. No, right, Ruthie? It's just like, oh, lordy. I'm pretty happy hanging out with the average Joe. Actually, I'm pretty happy not hanging out with anyone. You guys, I'm good. Oh, yeah. This is the kind of shite you run into out in that real world. I've never been to court. Yeah, it's who you know. You're right, JJ. But regardless, so it's who you know. So does that mean they just make perfect arseholes out of the average person? Just by being around them, it rubs off? Yeah, there are very few who have scruples. I hang with my black and tans. You're talking about your Roddies, right? Yeah, like I'm the same. I've got my little zoo here and quite happy about it. I think I've got a chinchilla that really, really needs to be clipped up. His fur, like it's a mat that I've been working on for the past long while. He does something that he's not supposed to. He will go, and he is the cutest and friendliest little soul. But in the place where we give him his baths, well, he'll go to the bathroom in there. So he goes in there, rolls around, has a wet bath, and chinchillas are not supposed to have wet baths. And he, oh, what's going on here? So what's that mean? So yeah, so now he's got a big mat. I've got an older guy, Chong. He's got the mats as well. So how do I take that? Did they just close it to everybody? What'd they just do here? Yes, your fur babies. That's exactly what they are. I've always heard it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, in some of these cases, I'm wondering if it's not who you know, it's who you blow. Not meaning to be absolutely disgusting, but what? I sent Mexi a GIF. It was a seagull swallowing a great big wiener and then regurgitating it and then swallowing a big. So yeah, I think I'll probably add him in at one of these times. Oh, geez. I call Francis Gull Richard Allen's lawyer judge, Fran Siegel. I call her the shite hawk. So that was Fran Siegel. can't unsee it. It's better than the first one I sent you, though, I bet. Oh, lordy, lordy. So, yeah, what's she doing here? James. Okay, I really don't know what to make of this. They might have shut this down. You seen the page that came up? Hmm. Let me check something else. Oh, yeah. So, as far as I know, Daryl Brooks was just like a couple minutes. He came in a wheelchair. I don't know what that's all about. And they're pushing him in a wheelchair. He's got more hair. Here, let's look at it. It'll be a little bonus. It's fast. Let me double check. I'm sure I have the volume on. Yep. Oh, different judge. Okay, that's what that's what I was seeing. Yep. You should see the thumbnail I made. So what? Is that it? Yeah. So that was it, I guess.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know what this is all about. I can't stream it and make a show out of it, so we'll just look at it and that's it. That's it. That's out of the whole thing. Objection. I liked it when he was sitting in that little room with the thing, the objection written across. He's just like, alrighty then. So yeah, I guess we won't be watching that. Okay, guys. Well, happy Friday. Thank you very much for joining me for another ish show in the courtroom. I think it's going to get more interesting, not less. With that said, I do believe that there's going to be some tension in there somewhere. So I appreciate everybody, you know I do. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Hit the bell because I'm random. And I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.
Dun 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 dun.